Being 5:30, I'll now call to order the regular meeting of the Lake Placid Town Council this 8th day of May, 5:30 p.m. in the Government Center of the great town of Lake Placid. If everybody would please make sure your phones are either off or on vibrate, we would appreciate it. And if everybody would please stand, we are honored to have with us tonight Reverend Norris from the Lutheran Church, who will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we come before you this evening, trusting in your wisdom to guide and direct the discussion and decisions of this town council of Lake Placid, Florida. Help the members of this council to make decisions and pass resolutions that will satisfy the needs of the community during this evening's meeting. Strengthen and prosper this community with economic prosperity and positive community growth. Guide this council as they make tough decisions that impact so many in our town. And we pray that we will be blessed by the abundance of your grace and mercy. Father, please guide these men and women and the people of the audience that are here this evening, that this meeting can be productive and encouraging to all present and those that cannot be with us this evening. Let the actions taken here this evening be effective and decisive and pleasing in your sight. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Norris.
That's a whole nother.
All right, Clerk, I'll ask you to call the roll.
Mayor Holbrook.
Here.
Councilmember Royce.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Sapp.
Here.
Councilmember Hayes.
Here.
All right, we'll now go into consent agenda 1, A through E.
I move to approve consent agenda 1, A through E.
I have on the approval of the minutes that are within consent agenda 1, there is a correction, please. It's like in where we talked about the principal change at the school. I was not in favor of that, and it says that I was. It said that it was within the purview of the council, and I said it was not within the purview of the council. I informed city manager and our clerk of saying, and she has corrected it on the minutes that will be filed, but it is not corrected on the ones that you see here.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Did we have a second? You second, right?
I second it with the correction.
Okay, with the corrections, okay. Any other comments from the podium? Any from the audience? Saying need back, poll the council, please.
Councilmember Sapp.
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Councilmember Royce.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, there is no consent agenda 2 tonight, so we'll go to presentations, and we'll ask the head of the chamber, Mrs. Bush, if she would please come forward.
Wow, I didn't have to sit through all the other stuff tonight, guys. Thanks. I am Jennifer Bush with the Lake Placid Chamber of Commerce. What I'm asking for tonight, I am reserving the park for the Caladium Festival, July 28th and 29th. And for the car and bike show, I'm reserving the Circle, which is July 29th. And I'm asking that the refundable deposits, which come to $1,150 for both parks, are waived.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments from the podium? Hearing none from the audience? Seeing none, bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Sapp.
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Councilmember Royce.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
And then I have also turned in the road closure request and the sign permits to Mr. Williams. So we should have everything in order going the right chain of command. I think we're good, yes.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you very much.
We look forward to it.
Thank you.
And we do have is it Addie Ulstrom? She's with the Interlake Condo Association.
Thank you for fitting me in. Okay, some of you may remember me 3 years ago. I, myself, and 2 other residents.
Pull it down a little bit. There you go.
Okay. From the Interlake condo, came before the board and asked for help with cleaning up the unsightly property at the tower complex on Plaza Avenue and the whole street in general. At that time, the concerns were torn sandbags along the edge of the street adjacent to the utility department station number 7. These bags had already been replaced by the city once. The intention was to prevent sand and debris from running down to the drain on Lake Clay Drive. Neither time, due to frequent daily rains, did this stop the drain from plugging on Lake Clay Drive. Another issue at that meeting was the waist-long grass that hadn't been cut for some time. The concerned residents were so pleased and grateful when the very next morning, both of these issues were promptly cleared up with the grass being cut and the sandbags taken away. However, that didn't stop the issue of the drain being plugged. We had our driveway blacktopped, and we asked them to put the extra blacktop along the curb, which they did, and that has helped tremendously. So that issue is pretty much satisfied right now. And however, the condition of the tower building and grounds remained untouched. It's unfortunate that the grounds and the buildings themselves are today remarkably worse than 3 years ago. If any of the board members have not driven up Placid Drive, please do so. You will see the terrible mess that the tower construction is, the buildings and the grounds are in. It's really, really not a pleasant sight. One of the first times I had questioned the city as to what is being done to correct the problems of the buildings, I was told the city was waiting to secure funds to correct the mold issues. Perhaps it's safe to say those funds were never secured, and I think it's safe to say probably will never be secured at this point. This is 5 years ago. Okay, and 1 year ago when Ian hit Lake Placid, the roof of the end structure, the one facing the hardware store or Tower Street, collapsed. Installation and other potentially dangerous debris is still hanging loosely after a year from the damaged roof. Numerous other eyesores include many, many beer cans scattered around, as well as a shopping cart full of empty beer cans. This could be potentially from the beer parties, the parties they have there at night. Obviously, something's going on there. And another shopping cart is full of garbage, just stuffed with garbage. And it's been there for a long time. A section of the wall has been torn away on the end, and it's been suggested by many people that maybe homeless people are camping in there at night. I don't know that for a fact, but it seems plausible. So, needless to say, this is an embarrassment to the neighborhood, but even more serious issues are to be considered. With the hurricane season approaching, the potential for all this debris could be strewn around if we indeed have another hurricane. It could be really bad. If you remember the last one, in the middle of the night, all the debris flying around. You didn't know where it came from, but it was there. And the next morning, we kind of figured out a lot of it. But, so hopefully that won't happen. But we are also very excited about the Taco Bell coming to town. It's been talked about for quite a while now, and I think it's pretty nice. We're anxious to try it out. And we appreciate the investment they've made in our city. I mean, we've had other restaurants that have been interested but didn't stay. The established, you have to wonder, how will that establishment appreciate their investment in our city when the immediate business neighbors are in such awful present condition? The city's code enforcement is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of its residents. One would have to ask, what enforcement? Thank you for listening to our concerns. I'm hopeful you will assure us that these problems are already being addressed. And we'd like to hear that for sure. So I have taken pictures in case any of you haven't seen that situation, and you can pass them around if you'd like. Oops. These pictures are.
I remember you coming up before and being very nervous. You did a very fine job. I appreciate your compliments on the job they did last time and having your crew put the asphalt along the edge and fixing that problem. And I'm glad that you appreciate the Taco Bell coming in, because that was a big concern for the whole neighborhood there. All I can say is that I think the tower situation is on the radar. I'm not sure exactly how we're proceeding on handling that issue, but I agree, something needs to be done. Might be lip service, I don't know, I'm not sure what we can do, but I agree with you.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I want to concur with Councilman Sapp, and I believe from emails I've seen from the town attorney that he is trying to figure out within our ability, within the law, how to be more aggressive in code enforcement or condemnations of buildings that have obviously got to the point of being non-functional. So I hope as soon as they figure out what we can do legally within private property rights that we'll move on that.
Any other comments? Okay. We'll now go to 5B1. Dana?
Good evening, and thank you. Dana Riddell, Town Planner for the record. The matter for consideration tonight would be moving the regular local planning agency meetings from the third Monday of the month to the first Monday of the month. And this will result in a decreased development timeline for anyone having to undergo a zoning change or a future land use change, which, as the council is aware, we do partake in a lot of zoning changes in the town limits because we have a lot of planned developments. And a lot of times these timelines can be of major concern to the developers. So just shaving off at least 2 weeks is a big change for them and for us to be able to be a little bit more development friendly in the town, while still allowing us to all take the same amount of time that we needed in order to review the plans or the zoning and future land use changes. The local planning agency met on April 17th, and they made a recommendation to the town council that we approve the change in meeting dates. And I'm also asking tonight that when we proceed with this motion, if there is a motion to approve, that we would also include that it be advertised and it would be effective in June.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take it to the audience. Bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
So done.
Thank you.
Next, 5B2.
Oh, it's not switching to the next one for some reason.
It's a zoning change.
Yeah, so I can go ahead and provide a little background on it. What this is Planning and Zoning Case 1227. It's located in the unincorporated Highlands County. So the question may arise as to why are we looking at this? And that's because it's in the LPRP, which is the Lake Placid Regional Planning Area. And that's the area that we have already marked and indicated that there will be growth one day, and that if the town of Lake Placid continues to grow and annex more parcels, then this would be one of the parcels that they would consider annexing because it's in the LPRP. Now, anytime there is a zoning or future land use change in this area, the county does notify us. So they reached out to us and they let us know. We are part of their development review committee, which means we can take a look at this and then we'll go back to the county with any comments. So I also want to be clear about how this would have to go down in terms of the commenting. We can recommend approval or denial of the case. We can also recommend that maybe they go and get a plan development, but the proposed zoning right now is for Highlands County B3. And when we do a straight zoning like B3 or B2, we can't condition it. So we can't say, oh, I'm okay with the B3 zoning, but only if they don't allow buildings that are higher than 15 feet. So that's the type of thing we couldn't do, but we could say, I'm okay with the development. I would recommend a planned development zoning, and these are the conditions that I would recommend on that zoning. And I hope that makes sense. I'm here to guide you through any questions that you might have or any discussion that we might have. Right now, it's zoned B2 CU, which back in the day, they did put conditional uses on the zoning. And so the only thing that's allowed on this particular property today is an office. But I think most of us have driven past this parcel before, and it's probably never been used as an office. Or maybe it has, I'm not sure. I just haven't seen it used in that way. And so my recommendation today, I think it's good that we have this discussion, we talk about it, we acknowledge that there is something in the LPRP. My only recommendation would be just to say nothing this time around because the parcel is already developed and it's so small that if they did redevelop it, maybe it could be a farm stand. It would have really limited uses because of the parking and landscaping requirements and things of that nature. But I'm happy to bring any recommendation back to the county that we might have, and I can type them up a letter and let them know our thoughts. So I'll turn it back over to council.
Mr. Mayor, I know that Mr. Dell got this as well. When I saw it, I sent it along to Mr. Harris and Mr. Williams. This building's traditionally been utilized as a fruit stand and selling watermelons, and I think there was maybe a car detailing deal or something there. And I'm not concerned about how it's been used historically. I see that now. I'm concerned that if it just changes, that then they can do other things. The building gets expanded, it becomes a truck repair lot, or something like that we've seen in other areas, that the expanded use then becomes problematic or potentially problematic. So even if it's not for this specific case, I think we need to weigh in and ask the county that in the future, they ought to use PD, the PD mechanism within the Lake Placid Regional Plan so that we can have some specificity as to what's going to go on there, and it doesn't all of a sudden become a, used semi-repair and sale lot or something like that, or become a big storage facility. I have to admit, I don't know what B3 would exactly allow, but they obviously aren't happy with it just being a fruit stand or a car dealing place, because that's what they're trying to get better or more renters, so.
So just to clarify, the zoning now only allows offices, and when I say it hasn't been used for offices, whatever use that has occurred in that building has been in non-compliance. So that detailing business you had mentioned, I know that Highlands County Code Enforcement had to go out there and ask them to shut it down. I just wanted to clarify that it is being used for other things, but I think the code enforcement is shutting it down as much as they can if they're notified. But we can go ahead and ask the county to encourage, is encourage the right word, the PD zoning and the LPRP, so we can place conditions on the property, because we can't necessarily have them require the PDs if the code doesn't already require it. So is encourage a good word?
What is B3 in the county?
Business district. It's just their full-blown,
Does that allow the things like Ray was mentioning, and B2 is business, and that's already there?
limited business, yes.
B through is pretty much anything.
Yeah.
See, the B2C, the conditional use B2, it was relatively limited. It's not much traffic. It's not much exposure. You know, I don't even know. I don't know whether they have a septic tank there, if they have water. I'd have no idea.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to see the thing expand and there not be adequate water or septic, those kinds of things in that area for an area within the Lake Placid Regional Plan that hopefully one day will be a very nice part of our growing community, you know, albeit 5-10 years from now.
What's the future land use in that area?
So this is entirely, for the most part, spot zoning. In terms of future land use, across from US 27, they have a mixed use future land use, but everything on the east side of US 27, where this parcel is actually located, is residential. And just based on my conversations with the county, there's lots of layers to this particular property. The new county attorney, she's not new anymore, I'm sorry. I'm newer. She believes that it should be replatted. And so there's a number of things that may or may not occur on this property, but it is spot zoning and inconsistent with the surrounding area.
Does this owner own any of the surrounding, or is this all the property that owner owns?
This is all the property they own.
I would recommend the town council go on record opposing the rezoning and the change because it is spot zoning, it is inconsistent with the future land use, and it is inconsistent with the future land use map, period.
Okay, so I have down, if anyone wants to make a motion, I just want to read it back, that the town council recommends denial of the zoning change due to the inconsistency of the zoning and future land use maps.
And because it's spot zoning. I think you said that, didn't you?
I said inconsistency, but let's use spot zoning.
As well, both.
Okay, we could do that.
I mean, that's subject to council's, somebody's got to make a motion to do that if they want.
And we can also include in the motion to also make the recommendation that future zoning changes be PDs.
They ought to consider utilizing PD mechanism.
Yeah.
So I'll make that motion, as that motion of recommendation to the Highlands County Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, second, any discussion? Hearing none from the audience? All right, seeing none, bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
All right, 5C1, purchase of West Interlake and north 30-foot utility path.
This is a motion asking for your authority to close on the existing contract to purchase from Smoke Land, the 30-foot corridor for utilities and path along West Interlake and North Tangerine. You have the proposed motion.
I move that the town council authorize the mayor to close on the contract with Smoke Land to purchase a 30-foot strip of land along West Interlake and North Tangerine, and the funds to close and purchase be paid from the Lake Placid Regional Utilities Sewer Capital Account. That would include the purchase price and the closing costs shown on the closing statement.
Second.
And in support of the motion, I think this is something we authorized prior, and this is just a move to finalize the deal.
Okay. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any comments? Take it to the audience. Okay, bring it back. Poll the council.
Councilmember Royce,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
I would ask for a separate motion to approve, to authorize the mayor to enter an easement agreement with Smoke Land on the 30-foot by 60-foot parcel which will be used to provide access, meaning we would be purchasing and this is already in the math in your approval. I'm now talking about the easement agreement document. You've paid $60,000 per acre at the rate for the unencumbered path. This is for the 60-foot wide portion of that path that provides access to the smokes on North Tangerine. There are not as many platted roads. There are no platted roads there. And we've negotiated, I have today negotiated the agreement with Smokes that allows them to have the vehicular access across that 30 by 60 foot, and we would have the underground use for utilities and the surface use for pedestrian crossing at that intersection with their access point. So I'd ask for a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to enter that easement agreement.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take it to the audience. Seeing none, bring it back. Poll the council.
Councilmember Sapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Councilmember Royce,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Next is, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, the
Yes.
next point, 5C2 is a proposed contract. This is kind of new. We discussed it initially when you determined to purchase the West Interlake and North Tangerine. This would be a similar agreement with Smoke running to the south toward Catfish Creek. I say toward because if you'll look at the map attached to 5C2, you will notice Smoke Land owns probably 90% of the land from West Interlake south to Catfish Creek. There is one out parcel on the north side that's owned by a member of the Reynolds family. And there are several homes on the south end that we would need to talk with separately or simply put the path in the road as they're planning to do today. Recall the county obtained a grant to construct the path, so this is providing for land for the path as well as utility, not easement, but you would own then the area that our utilities would be located. Ownership is better than putting them in the right-of-way of the county road because the county can expand the road and say, move your line. So the proposal would be for this to come out of the capital fund like the other did of the utility budget. You see the proposed cost is $270,000. It would be subject to survey and the same price per acre of $60,000 per acre, $30,000 per acre where our utility easement, rather for a utility easement where it crosses their intersection for access. The contract provides for 2 access points for the smokes, in addition to the existing access points, for example, to the old Dunty house and to the one the mayor drives up and down every day out, what's the name of your subdivision?
Okay.
Oak Island. for your consideration.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the contract to purchase a 30-foot utility parcel on Catfish Creek Road from Smoke Land, that we authorize the mayor to make minor amendments to the proposed contract, and the Lake Placid utility budget be amended to allocate and pay the purchase price and closing costs from the capital account.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the podium? Hearing none, we'll take it to the audience. Seeing none, bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I have 30 seconds? I was at a county meeting the other day, and they were talking in a way about this area because the county is also getting funds to repair or expand the bridge at Catfish Creek, and reminded them at that time that if there was FDOT money for a pathway going out there, there was separate FDOT money for a pedestrian or pathway bridge out there, that we were almost certainly going to be putting wastewater utility lines in that area. And I don't know, as I look at Joey and Kevin, whether or not wastewater lines go under Catfish Creek or get attached to the bridge or what they did. But I just wanted everyone to know that they're getting ready to do some significant renovation or expansion of, most likely even expansion of that bridge. So now is a very key moment for us, and in particular our utility, to make sure we're having conversations with the county engineer's office. And if we are going to need to do anything, or if our utility is going to need to do anything that would utilize that bridge, we probably need to be telling them like now, so it can get incorporated into that design. Thank you. Just didn't want to forget near the end of the meeting.
Okay. Okay, now we go to 5C3, Lake Placid Camp and Conference Center.
I've accused Joe of being a co-sponsor of this one. I think he's been comfortable with that. Joe, if you disagree with anything I'm about to say, please interject. You also have Corbett Allday here representing the Camp and Conference Center. I've got Matt Taylor is on speed dial, as well as Brian Wilson, should you want to hear any of this from them. We have before you a couple of resolutions. The first is the second amended and conditional pledge of the wastewater revenue stream, and that is the bulk service. Remember, the Camp and Conference Center will be paying the full code rate to collect and treat wastewater. In addition to that, they will pay the amount needed to amortize the loan. The current status of the loan is we, the town, have been given a grant and a loan for 1.8-ish. The numbers are in the resolution. Correct me if I get too far off base, Corbett. That loan will be in place until the first payment is made, which is either 6 months or a year after it's in service. And at that time, the grant will reduce the loan by $1.5 million, leaving the 375-ish thousand plus the loan fee, puts it a little over 400 and change. That will be the permanent amount amortized. The conference center is still committed to pay that on the total amount amortization, which is the larger monthly payment, so it should amortize very quickly. We have always been discussing a bond that would secure the town should things not go well for the conference center. So we will have basically a letter of credit that's a bonding company saying they'll pay if the conference center and the district does not. The state wants two levels of protection or payment assurances. One will be the bulk service agreement that we will assign. The second is the bond. I have taken the position and recommend to you tonight that the bond be made payable to the state directly, because that's the debt being paid. That makes the state more comfortable, and it ends the state's request to get a pledge of all of the conference center's revenue. We'll talk about that in a moment. I recommend we agree to have that bond payable directly to the state rather than to us, because it pays our debt. In my opinion, we should not care, because the end result is the same, whether it's payable to us and then we go through more paper to assign it and then have it payable to the state upon default. And again, this is only in the event of default. That has led to the change of documents that you see before you today, because the state came back with the construction loan agreement that you have attached. It's the one that's WW 280-220 and the grant agreement 280-221 that required the second a bit of collateral to be our pledge of the Camp and Conference Center's gross revenue. That to me was a very difficult leap. First of all, if the Camp and Conference Center goes south, there's not going to be any gross revenue and it will all be spent. So it was, in my opinion, illusory. And of course, we would have to have it pledged by them to us, secured with the appropriate UCC documents and filings, and then by us to the, made no sense. Hence, we simply said, let's assign the bond. So I would first ask that you approve the second amended limited and conditional pledge of the wastewater system revenue and assignment of the bond to the state revolving fund. Would ask for that motion or any questions if you have them.
I have a very quick question. And I assume the Camp and Conference Center is completely on board with all this?
Yes.
And if so, I guess I would like if Mr. Alday just to, for the record, so we have it on the record, state that yes, they're in agreement with every action that you are proposing we take tonight. I mean, I have no problem. I just want to, this has been a long path, and I don't ever want it to come back that we're going a different way without their assurance that they're in lockstep with us.
Certainly, Councilmember. Bert and I and Joe had a conference call before tonight's meeting to confirm with Dr. Wilson and Matthew, his legal counsel, that they were on board with all of these actions tonight, and they were. So.
Thank you, Mr. Alday. That's all I wanted.
The weird thing about this is the initial bond is 115% of the debt. The initial debt is the full 1.8 million. They're not applying the grant until we've dispersed the money, paid the system, and it's up and running. Then they disperse the grant. So the initial bond will be probably $2 million-ish. And they're working on that as we speak today. I would ask for your vote.
So moved on Bert's motion.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take it to the public. Okay, none. Bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Okay,
The next resolution is authorizing, adopting and authorizing the mayor to sign the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Loan Agreement. That's the agreement you just pledged collateral to secure. This agreement has been before you before. The one that came last time had the state, had our pledge of the conference center's revenue, which was screwy. I called out in the resolution the precise changes to be made. The state has not provided us the precise language they would like, so I included in our resolution the conceptual provisions that the bond would be either held by us or by the state of Florida, securing the debt. So I'm asking you, and I am recommending, it is my opinion that it would be safe and appropriate to adopt the resolution approving the Clean Water Revolving Fund loan agreement and giving the mayor the ability to make slight modifications, because I still don't have their precise wording and how they want that bond pledge done. And the mayor's authority would be to effect the council's intent as discussed and presented tonight. Any questions?
I'll make the motion
Okay, thanks,
that
Charlie.
we authorize the mayor to sign and amend the agreement for the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Town of Lake Placid Clean Water State Revolving Fund Construction Loan Agreement number WW280220, Grant Agreement SG 280221.
I'll second that.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further comments? Hearing none, we'll take it to the audience.
120.
Saying none, bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Councilmember Royce,
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp.
Yes.
The next attachment to the item is the opinion letter that I will issue when all of this is in place. That is strictly for your information. And the final is the site certification to be signed by the mayor. We settled today on the terms of the easement, the utility easement that will be on Conference Center property on Placid View Drive. It is .03 acres, a 30 by 40 site. The legal description was in the plans previously approved. The easement will be an exclusive as opposed to non-exclusive, meaning it will be only for the town's use. So I would ask that the town authorize the mayor to issue the site certification upon receiving and recording of the easement from the district which owns the Lake Placid Camp and Conference Center.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Quick question. I just want to make sure, I think I understand it, but this is for where the lift station is going to be located. And so this is not in the lift station is not in the public right of way. It's sitting on Camp and Conference Center property. Is the lift station, it's owned by the utility, correct? Or is it owned by the Camp and Conference Center?
Lift station will be owned by the utility. The easement will be owned by the utility. The title will be to Camp and Conference Center, and that is to allow them to sell the Camp and Conference Center if they want, but it will still be subject to our exclusive use for the lift station.
But the lift station, it'll be owned and maintained by the town. We'll have complete access to it. And as we expand our utility system, other lines will be able to come in and access that lift station?
That is correct.
Okay.
It is, as I recall, Joe, now I'm taxing my memory, if I'm wrong, say so. Didn't we leave it where the Camp and Conference Center operates and maintains the lift station until we hook up other lines? I recall that was the discussion.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was clear as to,
Yes.
so if, as an anticipation of us having a project that goes further down Placid View Drive, I just didn't want there to be any problem of hooking. I mean, theoretically, those lines would hook to this lift station, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And there has been everything but blood drawn between Bert and Joe over the size of that line. It is now up to, I believe, 8 inches in diameter.
Yeah, Joe Burrow for the record. Yes, after we've done the hydraulic modeling analysis, that line was upsized in order to accommodate the rest of the projects going around Lake Placid. And in the original agreement with the Camp and Conference Center, we have the ability to use that if we need to and take over operation and maintenance.
Okay. Thank you. I assumed all that. I guess, again, just for the public record, I wanted to make sure that was the case, you know.
Now that you've asked, the debate, and I say blood, that's kind of humorous.
It's literal.
I wanted it to be as big as possible for that very reason, but apparently the engineers, Joe included, leading the charge, tells me you get too big and the stuff just kind of goes and sits and it doesn't do well. So you've got to have it small enough that it'll be pumped and get to the tank rather than just fill up and sit. So that was the compromise that I think we all recommend. Fair statement, Joe?
Yes, it has been upsized to the maximum degree possible and to where it will still work. The south plant is also being designed right now to cut across Lake Mirror Drive and tie into that force main. So it's going to be used for other projects as well.
Thank you.
So if I can ask, where is this lift station going to be located?
It's on the Camp and Conference Center's property. I have to go back and look, but it's kind of past their driveway as, you know, if you were headed down Lake Drive or
So inside the
Placid
gate?
View.
And
it'll be on the edge of the right-of-way. So right next to the road where we will be able to get to it. I don't remember if they have a gate there or not, but it should be fenced in, yep.
there is a gate at their entrance. I know that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's not at the entrance, it's further down,
Okay.
yep. But that 30 by 40 piece abuts the road right away. So we shouldn't have any problem ever having access as long as we have access to the road. Where the actual, I think that's Placid View, yeah.
And just to reiterate, I assume, Mr. Barber, Mr. Harris, the other beauty of this being on their property is then it's not in the county's public right-of-way, and so it is not subject to being our problem if they ever need to expand the right-of-way. That would be their problem to accommodate us, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Trade-off is it's always quick and easy to put a utility line down the county right-of-way, but that makes it our cost to move if the county needs the right-of-way. So we try to put stuff on private property or acquire the interest if we can. We did, through the grant. Any other questions or issues? Did we vote on the site certification?
No, not yet. We got a first and a second.
Okay. Any other comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none, go ahead, poll the council.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Corbett, have I forgotten any issues? Thank you for joining us tonight.
All right,
This came on the agenda very late. I apologize for that, but as you can see, it's not even all completely worked out. It was being worked on feverishly, and we're trying to, actually, when I spoke with the state discussing some of this, they still have, oh, Lake Placid. Y'all are kind of late, aren't you? So we've got a bad reputation with them, I'm afraid, that we need to work on. And we are. Thank you, Corbett.
okay, thanks, Corbett. All right, the last thing I have on the agenda is 5D1, ARPA funds update.
Mr. Mayor, I put this on the agenda because under instruction from council last time to have it on the agenda next time. There's been no changes. I'm still waiting on the county. I'm not sure if you want me to continue to put it on there, Councilman Royce, until we get something from the county, or?
The county has been, let me say this, the county's been caught up in some other things, but I did speak to 2 or 3 of the key players in regards to the new fire department, and they tell me they are extremely close to going to bid, you know, and so
Have we seen the plans?
we have, well, no. I mean, we have not seen, we've seen kind of a preliminary sighting, but they, and maybe going to bid. They are moving forward. They promised to get with us, the town, and show us what sighting was going to be and all that. And I spoke with Mr. Marine and I spoke with Ms. Herner. And so I think that we probably need to have a renewed emphasis, and because of that very reaction there, make sure that they do not go to bid prior to us, you know, getting another presentation as to what their intent is. But they tell me I keep saying, are we ever going to get a new fire department? And they say we are rapidly getting close, so.
And the other two items, as things come in, offers, things that we might not want, I put them on there, and if the council can consider these two items or not, but you could use the ARPA funds on those. The laserfish, the clerk is going to be actively pursuing that in the budget cycle coming up with the laserfish software to see if we can't get some of our paperwork reduced. The other thing is a system that reduces mold spores, which would be nice, but there again, and that would be classic ARPA funds.
Can we use it for anything utility related?
Do it?
Can we use ARPA for anything utility related?
Yeah, yeah.
And this would take funds away from the projected police department, correct?
Anything that you use on anything else obviously can't be used to the police department.
Right. So why are we in such a hurry to use these funds when we know that we have the fire department coming, and we know very well that we need a new police department? We have a drawing. We know we don't have plans. And then comes up here, well, the architect hasn't submitted any plans. Well, we haven't asked him to submit plans because we can't ask them to submit plans until we know what's going on with the fire department. But I think what we're doing here is a little bit of smoke and mirrors, which I'm not comfortable with at all, okay? We're trying to, we're gonna wait on the fire department. Are we gonna build a police department or are we not? Let's decide. Because I can tell you this, I'm very uncomfortable with the police department as it is. Number one, the record storage, the evidence storage is very tight. The whole department is kind of running over each other in the building. But more importantly, the security of that building is like zero. And if somebody wanted to come in today with any kind of a high-powered weapon, I'm afraid it would lose the entire police department, especially the civilians in the front, because they have what they have in front. There is no protection for them. And the doors that are on both sides, you could go through those doors in a heartbeat. And it's, I used to, I don't know if you know this or not, but I used to do these security surveys just for this reason. And I can tell you that our police department wouldn't even come close to passing. If anything would happen, and our people would be injured or killed, God forbid, I'm afraid that we would not only be heartsick, but we would be extremely liable. So I think we need to reserve these funds. These ARPA funds don't have to be used until 2026. There's no need to pop out here and use this $40,000 and this $38,000, which we need to reserve to try to build a correct police department.
Okay. Well, there's nothing to vote on here, so any other comments?
I would like to make a note that at the last meeting, we moved by Councilmember Royce, seconded by Wilson, to revisit the issue at the next council meeting. It didn't exactly appear on the agenda, although it was kind of in there, kind of. I would like to propose that we put it again on the agenda and put it in very plain letters, police department, police office, however you want to put it, ARPA funds, police office. Where are we with this? An update to this. What's up with the fire department? Because the fire department really doesn't have a dog in our fight, but we do. Because our officers and our civilians that work in that police department are in danger every day they go to work in that department. And I'm not having it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any comments from the audience? I'll ask my department heads. Mr. Attorney, you got anything?
No, sir.
Phil, you got anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I've started looking at the pickleball courts in regards to the FERDAP grant. We obtained some different grants Eva requested of Sun and Lakes, and we got their application. Starting to figure out how we can do a quality grant. We'll probably have to do a public meeting and receive input. I think that's worth 3 points. That 3 points could put us ahead of Lake Wales, okay, for example. So we probably just want to do a brief meeting. It doesn't have to be much. I've looked at them on YouTube. They're quick. Hardly anybody shows up, but they held a meeting. So that's just an update on that. Okay?
And it has to be between now and August.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would say let's,
Nothing else?
okay. All right. Ms. Hayes?
I still have one more thing. We had, again, some like hanging chads from the last meetings, and I would like to know what our legal status is of our mutual aid agreement with the county.
We have a mutual aid agreement. The recent dust-up that I saw was triggered by our officers' presence beyond the bounds of Lake Placid, which, unless the agreement is invoked, they have zero power, or excuse me, they have the power of a citizen only. That was my concern. When I raised it, I was given a copy of the agreement that was not executed by the sheriff. The chief later assured me it was, but I don't know that it was invoked. And I am very concerned that if our officers render aid without the sheriff invoking the agreement, they are not protected as they should be. Neither are we.
Exactly. So how do we go forward with that?
That would be a town council directive, I think, to the chief saying, do not support unless the agreement is invoked, period.
But we need to move forward to invoke the agreement because we don't want to tell the sheriff that we're not going to play.
No, that's not, this is the sheriff's agreement. I do not like the form of the agreement in the least.
Okay.
I have been on the record with several objections to the form of the agreement, but it's the one we have. My point is, the sheriff will call us when he wants us. I appreciate law enforcement scares me to death. I'm very concerned about officer safety. I appreciate the fact that our officers want to support the sheriff. So do I. Absolutely. Those people put their lives on the line. I even recommended a simpler agreement that would allow officers to call for help. That was rejected. The sheriff wants to maintain the control where higher level officers are needed to invoke the agreement. So this is not saying we're not playing. This is saying we will play by the rules the sheriff has requested. And I'm simply saying, play by those rules. Phil, am I out of line on anything?
No, assuming Captain Snyder is going to be the new chief, which I'm probably about 89% sure of, the mutual aid agreement will be coming back before council very quickly, probably maybe even the next month, because we'll be seeking to establish a new one. And Bert can bring up all the legal issues and everything that he's concerned with. As I've stated, the sheriff's office is dealing with, does Bert have valid concerns? Yeah, but the sheriff's office is dealing with the Historic Sheriff's Association. This is what we have. Sign it or don't, And Mark has pointed out that there's statutes and everything giving officers the right to help whether there's a mutual aid agreement or not.
That's not true.
Huh?
I said that's not correct.
Officers are empowered to act in any disturbance or breach of peace where life is threatened anywhere in the state. That's covered under Section 901 Florida statute.
Please show me that.
Okay, I will.
Because I've read chapter 23.3 something that says you're only protected if you're operating under the terms of the mutual aid agreement when you go beyond your jurisdiction.
No, sir. If that were the case, HR 218 wouldn't be in place either.
I brought the law. I'm prepared to go toe-to-toe if you want to tonight.
I've been reading on it as well, as you asked me to look into. I have been looking into it, as you asked.
Then why
The
would we
crash
need-
we discussed was contiguous to the town and is covered under mutual aid agreement without them requesting us. And when an officer is possibly in danger or otherwise, it's covered under Section 2 of the mutual aid agreement, the last sentence. And it states, as otherwise may be needed.
Then why didn't they call? And that runs contra to the statute that says you're protected in your workers' comp.
Are you saying
wrongful
why
death,
didn't the deputies
and
call that
other
were responding?
benefits if the agreement is invoked, and it was not invoked. And oh, by the way, the spot in Placid Lakes where the man was shot is not contiguous to Lake Placid by any
Absolutely.
stretch.
And when I didn't say it was, I said that was covered under Section 2, where it clearly states, as requested or as otherwise needed. When you have a single officer running to a complaint where there is gunfire, an additional officer is needed. If
First
it's
of
one
all,
of ours that
they-
responds to back them up,
Well,
we
why
will
don't
go, and if they come to
Everybody
back us
can read
up.
the statute and kind of go, and it'll be back before,
Oh, it will. I'm sure it will in a month.
it'll be back before council in the terms of authorizing the mayor to.
And then in the meantime, you two can get together and hash this out. We don't need to do it here.
I'm looking at this email from Bill, and it says, for my part, it's signed and enforced. The mutual aid agreement is signed and enforced. When a new chief is appointed, it will probably be before council to approve, since it was controversial. Burt and Ray can explain their concerns on the agreement, as the sheriffs have always had in the agreement, via email at the council meeting or when it comes up. For now, it's executed and existing.
I agree, it is executed and existing. My point was comply with it.
I was going to say, I don't think that he's talking about whether the actual agreement was in force. I think he was talking about were they requested that time, and was it in effect if they responded that time. Am I right?
I asked about the agreement, and that was the answer I got.
Okay.
We'll get to do it all over again, and I'll buy lunch, and I want it to be very clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And oh, by the way, had I gotten a call for an officer's life in jeopardy, I'd have got my gun and gone too.
Yeah, we discussed that.
I-
Like I
I
said,
get
I
it.
was looking into what you asked me to look into. I haven't got the firm answers yet, so I haven't got back with you. But as soon as I get them, I will.
Excellent.
Okay.
I'll still say the agreement is terrible. Hate it.
Ray?
Well, on this subject, I'll just say the fact that we're having this debate, that this debate's going on means that we need to get it resolved one way or the other.
Rather
and-
quickly.
And whatever the appropriate people are, so. Let
No,
me
like
bring.
he said, it'll be
Right.
done probably within the next month.
I understand both sides of this one good. Let me make you all aware of one other thing, and I've had a conversation with Mr. Harris about this, because this is in his wheelhouse, and perhaps the mayor's as well. Again, I was at a county meeting recently where the county attorney talked about the issue of annexation, and that her recommendation to her bosses, the Highlands County Board of County Commissioners, were that they needed to address the annexation processes and what the county's options were in regards to all the municipalities. This was not Lake Placid specific, this was with all three municipalities. And conversation turned, as usual, to roads, it turned to taxes, it turned to fees. And this was not, they were not making any decisions, they weren't even workshopping it. This was the county attorney telling them, we need to get, I'm going to use the word protocol in place so that when they are notified of annexations, should they be commenting, should they be denying to the extent they can or whatever, or what conditions should they be either requiring or suggesting. So I just wanted you all, I know Mr. Harris in particular has, shared this concern with all of us in the past, but I just wanted you to be aware that I think this is something that certainly Bert and then probably the mayor too are going to probably have to be involved with in the coming months. And we're going to have to, I'm not saying we have to be in lockstep with the other municipalities, but the three municipalities are going to have to meet with the county, because this is something that is going to become a pretty big issue, and there's certainly a big economic impact, especially if all of a sudden we have to start they start talking about, when should roads automatically be transferred to municipalities, blah, blah, blah. So just wanted to have everyone on their radar that this is something in particular legal counsel's going to deal with. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Royce.
I can comment real quick, Mayor. I have not been, at one point in time, council was interested in every property that became contiguous. And I was issuing a report to council on all the residences and things like that that became contiguous. Now, it's still my understanding that not so much interested in residences anymore. And I haven't prepared any reports for a long time. There's probably some properties out there. If council wants such a report, I'll be glad to issue one.
And that wasn't my intent, Phil. My intent was just to tell you that this is something that's been kind of bubbling behind the scenes, and I think it's now going to go. And it involves everything from law enforcement responsibilities to solid waste collection, and if we're taking things and we're taking over solid waste collection, how do we get paid and not have to wait a year or two to get paid? And so I think this is going to be a topic, and it's going to take a while to work through it. I just wanted everyone to be aware, if you start to see something in the paper, this is not just a Lake Placid Highlands County thing. This is them probably proactively wanting to know how they're going to deal with all three municipalities.
Okay.
I would suggest that the council or the mayor designate my contact with you guys. In the past, Ray has dealt with county issues. Do you want me to deal with Ray as I negotiate and talk with? Or do you want to lead that charge yourself? And you may not be ready to make that decision
Yeah,
tonight.
let's think about that.
Okay.
I mean, this is pretty big. I don't want to leave the council out if they want to be involved in it. So let's think about that. We'll talk about it next meeting. Okay. All right. Charlie? Greg?
I'd like to thank Harry and Phil for jumping on the potholes out there at the park. I mentioned it, and it was done within a day or two,
Okay.
which made us all look good. It was greatly appreciated.
I hope you're pleased with the way that they did it. It was already on the calendar. Actually, I can't say that.
I didn't go there before. I just got a couple of complaints, and it must have been pretty bad. And no one called afterwards. But I did a drive-through, and it looked like a nice, quick, easy job, and it was a smooth drive. So that was good. Compliment Harry for us.
Okay.
I'll pass it on to them.
Only thing I got, Ray, this kind of affects you. July 10th, I will be out of town. That's our meeting night.
I will not be here either on July 10th.
Ooh.
I can if I have to. I'd rather not.
I take what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. I need to check my calendar, make sure that if you're not going to be here, that I will be here. We'll have a quorum. Okay. I will, as far as I know, I will be here on July 10th, but I will
Yes, I
check
just
my
wanted to make
calendar.
sure I brought it up.
Yes,
tonight.
sir.
Give everybody a heads up, so.
That'll be a good time to sneak something by.
I'll be here.
Yeah, we're gonna, Nell's gonna have us build that new police department while you're out of town, Greg.
We're gonna tell them we're starting with the bricks.
All right, if there's no other business to come before the Lake Placid Town Council,